getting angry at yet another murder by police. And that's a riot.
Peaceful, like CNN and their lying reporting said. That's the riot where a young man named Kyle Rittenhouse armed himself. Second Amendment. He did that to protect local business owners and their businesses from looters and criminals. He was
not his job. Not his job, not his property, not his place to do anything. So you're admitting he went out armed using the excuse of acting like an unpaid, unofficial employee of the local Target parking lot. He went out with the intention, total readiness to hurt people over property. You're going to buy that. So long as you get paid to sit there,
asked to do so. We all know that Kyle was cleared of those outlandish, murderous charges that were laid against him. But that
he got cleared. They weren't outlandish.
That, of course, does not stop the mob from going after him online or in person when they see the young man.
What mob? People have the right to tweet what they want. People have the right to say whatever the fuck they want. If it were a mob, Doughboy over there would be dead.
Man, it's ridiculous. They literally trying to make his life a living hell. For doing what? Defending his life.
For killing two people with a gun he crossed state lines to pick up. To protect himself when he decided preemptively to go on a possible shooting spree.
Which I would think any one of us, if you're watching this program, would do the same thing.
In our homes. In our homes. Or, against police. People that try to break into your home. People that put you and yours in immediate danger on your own property or in your own property. None of us are crossing state lines to pick up a gun so we can go to a riot, which you just said it was a dangerous riot. You just said that.
But have you heard the latest? One of the men that Kyle shot in self-defense during those riots, a man that pointed a gun at Kyle and admitted to it, is now.
He looks like he has a gun, doesn't he? Pointed a gun at him. Look at this fucker. This walks up to you. Do you think it might be self-defense if this fucker walked up to you looking like that? What, he's even got gloves on. Why does he have gloves on? This fucker walks up to you on the street. I would think that pulling your own handgun would be what the self-defense is.
Suing him, of course, because that is the crazy clown world we live in today. Gage Grosskreutz, I don't know if that's his name, don't care if I mispronounced it, could care less.
Of course you don't. Of course you don't. No respect for anybody. But let's cry about Kyle. Let's cry about Rittenhouse being harassed on Twitter.
Now suing in civil court, of course, and he's crossed another hurdle. The case.
Yes, of course. He should have expected this coming from the moment he drove his ass out there.
This is moving forward, which I don't get. Because during the criminal trial, this scum who was out rioting, who pointed a gun at young Kyle, and then got shot because he was pointing a gun at young Kyle, admitted on the stand in the criminal trial. But you see, I'm sure some lawyer got a hold of him and said,
yes, of course he was going to admit it. What the fuck does he have to hide?
Let's go after him in civil court. But just
Yes, that is exactly what the fuck happened.
to remind you before we bring Kyle on, watch this guy admit he pointed the gun.
You'd agree your firearm is pointed at Mr. Rittenhouse, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And once your firearm is pointed at Mr. Rittenhouse, that's when he fires his gun. Yes?
No.
Sir, look, I don't want to... Does this look like right now your arm is being shot?
That looks like my bicep being vaporized, yes.
Okay. And it's being vaporized as you're pointing your gun directly at him. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so when you were standing 3 to 5 feet from him with your arms up in the air, he never fired, right?
Correct.
It wasn't until you pointed your gun at him, advanced on him, with your gun, now your hands down, pointed at him, that he fired, right?
Correct.
Correct. Your bicep got vaporized, punk, because you pointed a loaded gun at a man lying on the street who was being beat up by your thug friends, and now you're being such a that you think you deserve some money.
Yes. That picture shows nobody else beating up Kyle Rittenhouse. Your little doughboy symbol of white supremacy and right-wing truth and patriotism.
So you sue this poor kid in civil court.
Yes.
Ridiculous. Kyle joins us now to discuss his latest legal fight. I want to welcome this young man back to the program. Kyle, let me apologize for this wacko, his attorney, and the judicial system the way it is today, because you were completely exonerated in your criminal case.
Nothing to do with civil court, dipshit.
The guy's on the stand saying, yep, I pointed the gun first. Kyle wasn't pointing his gun at me.
He did not say he pointed his gun first. He said in that photo he is pointing his gun.
Didn't shoot at me, but then I pointed my gun, so Kyle shot me. That's self-defense.
You know
What kind of crazy
what's
clown world?
interesting about that, Dan?
Yeah. Does he think?
The lawsuit does not mention that he pointed the gun at me at all. They don't mention that part.
They don't have to mention that part. That was covered in the criminal case. You know, the case where you go where you should have been put away for murder and attempted murder. That has to do with the criminal aspect. Civil suits are a completely different ballgame, honey.
At all. That's what's interesting about it. He's under oath. It's in the record. He admits to it, but they fail to leave it out of the lawsuit. I wonder why that is.
Of course.
Because they don't have to mention it, dipshit.
So in the civil lawsuit, what's the claim here? How much are they asking for, and what are they saying? Oh, emotional trauma? Like what are they saying that you did where you owe this guy money? He should owe you money.
No. He already got his payday. He got acquitted. That was his prize.
So they're suing me in the Eastern District of Wisconsin for emotional damages, pain and suffering, humiliation,
Blah, blah, blah.
a bunch of other things. I think conspiracy is one of them.
You don't even fucking know, do you? This kid doesn't even know what the guy he shot at is suing him for.
And it's quite honestly ridiculous. It's frustrating, and I'm just praying it doesn't go anywhere, because if they win, this is a new standard for people who defend themselves.
No, it is not a new standard. This is a very old standard. This is what happens in civil court. You had the criminal case. That part is over with. This is for civil liability. Civil liability, many people sue in civil court over things. Many people sue in civil court against criminals, whether they be exonerated criminally or not.
And are rightfully acquitted in criminal court if they're proven to use lawful they're going to say, hey, I know you were found not guilty, but we're going to come after you in civil court. We're going to take your money, and we're going to file these lawsuits against you, and we're going to drown you in a mountain of debt. And that's what they're doing to me right now.
That's how it works, sweet cheeks. That's exactly how it works. Criminal case is different. It has nothing to do with it. All those details, who pulled the gun, who didn't pull the gun, who ran away, that is for the criminal case. You got yours. You got off scot fucking free. Now there's a civil suit. Different ball game.
And I'm looking at it like, if they can do this to me, a 20-year-old kid who has no financial assets, who's pretty much a dead broke college kid, they can do this to anybody. They can do this.
You're not in college, dipshit. You got denied from several colleges. Nobody wants you in their university. Nobody wants you in their school. Nobody even wants to fucking hire your ass. That's why you're on Twitter grifting. That's why you're trying to appeal to these alt-right fuckwits for attention and for donations and for prayers and for whatever the fuck it is that you can grift off of the American people, appealing to their stupidity, appealing to their false senses of patriotism, appealing to their wallets to help give you a career, because nobody wants to hire you, nobody wants you in their schools. And stop talking like you're some separate standard. Stop talking like you're on a higher level than everybody else. This is what happens when you fuck around. You find out. This has happened a million times before. It is not going to set any new precedent when your ass is taken to the bank. This has happened plenty of times before. If they go after you, they can go after anybody. That's how it works. When you go out to a riot, as he said, it wasn't peaceful, it was a dangerous riot, you decided to go there, armed to the teeth, and use the excuse you were protecting Target parking lots. You fucked around then and you found out. And you took that opportunity to shoot. You could have killed this guy, but don't talk about that. Don't think about that. Don't give one thought whatsoever to what this guy you almost killed is going through. In your mind, he's garbage. He shouldn't be there at all. Why don't you just own it and say it out loud? So this whole case goes way, way quicker.
This to somebody who's established a career, who has money, and take all of their money.
Yeah. No, this is...
What career does this guy have? Where does he work, Kyle? Tell me all about him. Everything you know about this guy, who you said has a career and is established. Is he rich, Kyle? Do you know what assets he holds, Kyle? Are you just saying that because he's older, Kyle? Or are you saying that because you know nobody has a problem giving him a spot at their university or giving him a job? But they don't want you, do they, Kyle?
One, it'll set a horrible precedence for our Second Amendment right and self.
Not a horrible precedent. You weren't even on your own fucking property. This is what really burns my ass. You know, Kyle Rittenhouse is going to become the next OJ. You see, Kyle, there was this guy back in the early 90s. He was a football star, and he was a movie star, and he did all these advertisements and commercials and shit, and his name was OJ Simpson. OJ became embroiled in the so-called trial of the century. Nobody even saw him do anything. Nobody had cell phones back then. Nobody was around to witness anything. It wasn't all over CNN. There was no Twitter. OJ was suspected of murdering his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend, Ron Goldman. No cell phone video, no Twitter, no witnesses, no nothing. It was months long, this criminal trial. Months long. And everybody in this country knew he was guilty because they knew OJ had a history with his ex-wife, a history of abuse, a history of horrible fighting, a history of 911 calls made by her. There was plenty to suggest he wasn't this innocent little man that people knew from the comedy movies. There was a history there, and everybody figured he had repeatedly stabbed, almost decapitated Nicole Brown Simpson. Cut her neck so deep her head almost came off. And he ended up being acquitted. He got off scot-free. That was his prize. Not going to prison for multiple lifetimes as far as sentencing would go. And America was tearing itself apart over this verdict. Everybody thought the jury made a mistake. No way he was innocent, but he got acquitted. You want to know what happened after that? He got to go on with his life. And these two families, the Goldmans and the Browns, got no justice as far as who the murderer really was. If OJ was acquitted, never found him. Even OJ said, I'm going to work tirelessly to find the real killer. Then he came out with a book, If I Did It. If I did it, this is what I would have done, but obviously I didn't do that because I was acquitted. I'm completely innocent, actually. I'm going to go out and I'm going to find the real killer. The real killer's still out there. No killer has been found. No killer is even suspected. Nobody was placed there at the time of the murders. And that's because chances are most likely, at least if you take public consensus, OJ killed them. And he gets to live his life. And he got to go on all these interviews afterward where he would say, I'm doing fine. Talking about all the shit he wants to do in his life now that he has been completely exonerated, went back to playing golf, tried to hang out with his friends, lived in this posh house, ate at fancy restaurants, and then the Goldman family sued him civilly. Sued him civilly. Well, how could they sue OJ if he got exonerated? He was found not guilty. There is no proof to show that he killed their son, Ron Goldman. There is no proof beyond a reasonable doubt, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that he had killed his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson. So why would they sue him? What does that have to do with anything? The trial had nothing to do with it. It didn't matter. Civil suits are an entirely different ballgame. The Goldman family went after him civilly, and you want to know what happened? He owed them $40 million. OJ had to pay the Goldman family $40 fucking million in a civil suit. You want to know what the ironic thing is? If he had just gotten convicted of murder, they probably wouldn't have sued him civilly. They would have gotten their justice. He would have been put away for the rest of his life. You getting out of a lengthy prison term does not mean you did not cause damage. It does not mean that people are not still affected on every level. It does not mean the whole thing just goes away. People are going to talk about it. People are going to have discussions about it. People are going to go over the situation on the radio and on television. It's going to be all over the media. It's going to be a complete circus. That's why they call it a media circus. This is situations. These are things that people, the public, want to know. It says something about our justice system. It says something about relationships between people. The OJ trial, it said a lot about marriage. It said a lot about wealth. It had a lot to do with race. That was a major component there. And of course, he did get acquitted. He's found not guilty. Doesn't mean he's just going to go and live his life with everybody thinking the same about him as they did before this trial. People aren't fucking robots. Okay, OJ doesn't sit in the trial of the century, and because he gets acquitted, that's it. Nobody's allowed to bring it up anymore. That's not how it works. That's not how people work. And that is not how it worked for OJ. His entire life, ever since that point, everybody is going to bring up the case. Everybody's going to bring up the trial. There are people out there that fucking despise him. There are people out there that are going to call him a murderer for the rest of his life, no matter what he does. Unless there are laws that come out that prevent that type of thing, that's the type of thing that's going to happen. And he was taken to civil court, and he owed them $40 million. And I don't even know if he managed to pay it all off yet. It's been what, 25 years? 25 years at least since the trial. I don't think he's managed to pay off the Goldmans that whole $40 million yet. Okay, as Howard Stern said, and OJ didn't understand it either, complaining about the same thing that Rittenhouse is complaining about. He doesn't understand. He was found not guilty, so now I got to pay the Goldmans? As Howard Stern said, he killed their son. They're trying to bankrupt him. Yeah, he was exonerated. It's not going to make everything go away, especially in a situation where a good portion of the public thinks it's bullshit. And he did kill those two people. At least if he had been convicted and served a sentence, it may have ironically gone easier for him by this point in his life, because he would have paid his proper debt to society. Even then, there are people who are always going to call him a murderer till the day he dies. That's what happens. And here's this little prick. Practically all of it was caught on camera. Everybody knows the history. They have the pictures. They have pictures from before this incident happened. Everything is documented. They know exactly what happened. And he got his prize, just like OJ. He got acquitted. He got exonerated. That's something he should be thankful for every goddamn day. That he's not rotting his ass in prison for the rest of his life. Now he wants to whine and cry and complain. What is this civil suit? I don't understand. I was acquitted. It has nothing to do with the point of the civil suit. You think other people aren't sued into oblivion for serious shit that happens in their lives? You think people aren't on the hook for the rest of their lives in debt because of lawsuits? Compensation that they owe for the way they affect other people? The fact that they have wronged other people? There's a reason people like to threaten that someone will be stuck with so many legal bills and so much in compensation to pay out that their children will be paying it off. It really sucks, but that's what it's all about. And this is not a slap suit. This is not a frivolous lawsuit. Little dipshit fuck. Your right-wing dipshit host just said it himself. It was a riot. It was a full-on riot filled with criminals and horrible piece of fucking shit. And that is what you chose to walk into. He said it himself. It was a dangerous situation with a lot of dangerous people. And you walked into that.
And that's what being sued civilly is about. You affected two people's lives permanently. You affected their families' lives permanently. And not a word for them as human beings. Not a word for them as people that have their own futures that you almost ripped away from them over, what was that again? A Target parking lot. Imagine being told that by the little piece of fucking shit who ended up getting off the hook for almost killing you. It was totally okay. It was self-defense because he needed to protect a parking lot. Imagine being told it was over a parking lot, which became more important than your life. It's on Reddit. Whining about the civil lawsuits filed by the father of one of the men he shot dead, John Huber, and by the other man he shot who survived, Gage Crosskreutz, on Real America's Voice. You don't have to have financial assets. They'll garner your wages. Hell, he was 17 years old when he did this, so his parents may have to foot the bill. This being said, he's been kicked out of even an online non-degree college program and isn't going to be accepted anytime soon. He will probably just continue trying to run for right-wing office and grifting. He's completely uninsurable anyway. Any business that hires him will most likely have to pay through the nose because of the likelihood of this little shit going off the rails again. Imagine getting a resume from this fool and wondering when he's going to start referring to himself as a child and going nuts again. Most companies are going to bin his resume outright. Just about anyone can be sued, Kyle. You'd think a proud patriot like yourself would be passingly familiar with how this works. You are not special. Yep, that's a big part of that. He's talking like this civil suit will set some new precedent. He's talking like this is something that's never happened before. Oh, it happens, Kyle. He doesn't even know why they're suing him. He doesn't even know anything about these people or their lives. One of whom he took away, the other one who is forever affected by this. You're 20. You can't be a man when you want to walk the streets with a gun, but a kid when you're getting sued. Fucking lowlife. You aren't special. He'll learn this in the coming months and years. He's raw, has a weak personality, is doughy looking, no discernible skill. Running for office is not good considering the baggage, and if he loses these suits, that's a wrap on any career in the public eye. I honestly expect him to follow the path of George Zimmerman and just continue being a gigantic piece of shit. Think about it this way. He's not very bright and seems to exist on confirmation bias solely. He's going to implode his own world on a lark like that guy Murdaugh. I hope they bankrupt him for the rest of his life. Fun to imagine some collection agent jumping out of the bushes, snatching Kyle's paycheck out of his hand every week. Dude grows up and grabs the penny Kyle finds on the sidewalk. Yeah, maybe he shouldn't have murdered 2 people and crippled a third. Frankly, I'd suspect he'd have been better off going to prison, since there's free college and job training there. Doing his time, he could have gone on some sort of redemption tour, claiming he found Jesus or something. Then he'd have a much better chance at capitalizing on the grift. That's the fucking point. That's what I'm saying. Ironically, he should have prayed to go to prison. Even if he ended up getting off the hook, like 5 or 10 years down the road, got released, people would have completely calmed down if he had gotten convicted, because they know he was found guilty and he's going to go to prison for it. And then in 5 to 10 years, he could have gotten a degree in jail. He could have collected and saved money while he was in jail or prison. And then 5 to 10 years down the road, if they ended up letting him out for good behavior or whatever, people would actually be less likely, I think, to hate on this kid, because he did pay a price. Weirdly enough, I don't give a fuck if this murderer has to suffer the rest of his life. More like 50K. Pretty sure he'll be morally bankrupt for the rest of his life. Just about anyone can be shot, too. Think on that one, Kyle. Standard formula for fear tactics. Whatever's happening to me can happen to you. If you let me face consequences, how long before it happens to you? Give me money so I can win, and then by proxy, you'll win and be safe. No. Yeah, that shit ain't gonna work, because I would never, on my worst day, ask mommy or somebody else to drive me across state lines so I can put on gloves before picking up an automatic weapon from somebody waiting for me in another state, so I can go right into the middle of the, what was that, right-wing dipshit host, dangerous, horrible riot. He said it himself once again. Looking for trouble. That's exactly what he did. I would never do that shit on my worst day. Driving out of state, looking for a riot, as they called it, because of course it's a decent, sane, rational, left-leaning person's fight. Their argument: police brutality, dipshit cops, murder by cops. Right-wingers don't complain about that shit unless they're in their way at the Capitol building. But left-wingers do. And that's why he went out there. I had to, a CVS parking lot over there. Who the fuck was at the CVS? Those photos didn't show you at any CVS, by the way. I guess you'd call this a cautionary tale, about murdering people and stuff. You mean I should not seek out groups of people I don't like to confront them with an automatic weapon? How can I defend myself from them if I stay home? And the hero fantasy comes crashing down. Betty wishes he could have just stayed home and played COD instead. Zero sympathy for the little fuck. Amazes me that he took his COVID stimulus check, went over to another state, and had somebody get a firearm and store it for him. He went to the state, put on gloves, and shot multiple people, and our court system determined it was perfectly legal. Well, of course, he's a white male. Inevitable result of the evangelical demon mongrels infiltrating the judiciary over decades to make sure their inbred drones can act on their drilled-in bloodlust with no consequences. Make no mistake, they want to normalize and legalize killing and violating humans bit by bit. This case was the invaluable precedent for their plans. Here's how you murder someone legally in the U.S. Bring a weapon, escalate. When somebody tries to disarm you because you look like the guy is going to murder somebody, just shoot them. Tell the cops you were afraid they were going to shoot you with the weapon you brought over the escalation you started. It worked for Rittenhouse, killers of Trayvon Martin and Chad Reed. You're not allowed to defend yourself against someone with a gun because then they can get afraid of you killing them with that gun. Can you really call yourself a kid after you intentionally pulled the trigger and killed 2 other human beings? he's 20 years old. He's trying to pass himself off as a kid. No, you see, you're not supposed to affect the rest of his life because he was technically a kid when he killed 2 people. I'm tired of this. They're going to do it to me. Well, they're going to do it to you. For fuck's sake, they're doing it to you because you did a fucked up thing. I don't do that sketchy shit, so I think I'm going to be okay. All that bravado, the lust for weaponry, it's always to cover up deep-seated insecurities. Not just him, but millions like him. I hope you work to pay off the damages for the rest of your life. Your mom, too. Consider yourself lucky compared to the people whose lives you cut short and destroyed in your short trip to play fantasy hero, who is also too cowardly to enlist and face people who have the ability to defend themselves. Yeah, sure, I killed 2 people for getting in my personal space when I was in a different state I don't live in with someone else's gun I'm not old enough to purchase, protecting places I don't know's property from other people I don't know, and I got away with it and never have to serve any time in prison. And I'm also a public figure now who was raised by extremists that I pretend I'm not, but I'll still take their money to do appearances on their propaganda networks. But if they can sue me, they can sue anyone. See, we don't think they can do it to us because I would never take an AR-15 across state lines to cosplay as a cop or a military man and murder people in the process. Acquiring was by using an illegal straw buyer. And the gloves, don't forget the gloves he wore, so that there'd be no fingerprints on the gun. Let's not leave that part out, shall we? What kind of a world do we live in where a man cannot commit double homicide without facing consequences? Jeez. If by they you mean the family of the person you murdered, then yeah, that's pretty much how it works. I'm just here to laugh at the it was totally self-defense and he was taking out the trash type comments. They always conveniently forget Kyle was not invited to be there, as was his original claim, which was shot down by the property owner. Nobody in their right mind would think an untrained 17-year-old wielding a straw purchased gun, should be able to provide security. They leave out the fact that no businesses were harmed or burnt down, but they care very much all of a sudden for the dumpster that was set on fire. They ignore the video of Kyle weeks prior talking about how he's dying to shoot people. That's called intent in the court system, but definitely not in Kenosha because that video was not allowed. They always downplay the lives of the victims because of real or perceived crimes, as if it somehow justified their murder. These are the same people who think cops should be able to kill people for whatever reason, and isn't the hallmark of a balanced and logically thinking person. You're arguing in the court of public opinion, which Kyle lost because we all saw the court case and we all saw the evidence and judged his actions, just like OJ. Take the loss and go feel some grass under your feet. Very, very nice comment, dude. Do it to me, do it to anyone. He realizes they would first need to shoot and kill people, right? You literally couldn't do what's doing to him to anyone. That's a level of critical thinking that Kyle isn't capable of. Oh, so he has no financial assets. So he's doing all these media appearances out of the kindness of his heart. What an absolute piece of trash this kid is. Yeah, here's the thing, Kyle. None of us killed anybody at a racial injustice protest. These people have no reason to sue anyone but you. If they did try to sue us normal people, then it would be thrown out on the grounds of no evidence. So basically, nobody has anything to fear from this except you. Hunted. Let's make that clear. Not just shot dead, hunted. He went hunting. He got the weapons, crossed state lines, deliberately placed himself into a situation where he would be able to get away with killing people and act like he was just a poor widow guy out for a walk who had to suddenly defend himself. The judge was not only a Trump cult member, he decided the video of Rittenhouse saying he wanted to go to kill people was suddenly not admissible because it might make people think that he wanted to go there and kill people. Perhaps if he had showed some kind of remorse and wasn't trying to be a celebrity murderer, they wouldn't have sued him. One thing that's actually kind of interesting and sad here is that he apparently really thought he could ride this right-wing grifter gravy train for his life, ignoring everything that happened to Zimmerman. This is what happens when a useful idiot stops being useful, but continues being an idiot. He speaks like a narcissistic sociopath. Well, yeah. Take all your money like it's more important than the lives taken and the living guy whose life you've ruined. Love the statement that he's just a 20-year-old kid, almost as if he's trying to escape the responsibility of his actions. Or maybe he's trying to say he's too fucking stupid to be tried like an adult. Doesn't matter, he's an adult. Doesn't it just suck when the father of the person you killed sues you? Gotta hate when that happens. That's how civil liability works, Kyle. Were you thinking otherwise? Once the fame wears off, I expect him to kill someone else. He just won't be able to resist it. He was a nobody, then he killed people, and suddenly he was famous. Once he's no longer famous, he's gonna need that dopamine rush again. And he only knows one way to get fame. I live not too far away to where he's from and have family where he worked. Kid was a shithead who came from a shitty part of town, so I have no doubt why he's going for the grift. But at the same time, he's the fucking idiot that tried to defend a car lot he had no stake in, was not invited to be at, in a state he is not from or was insured in. To quote my great-grandfather, he's got everything worth coming to him. Butch up, princess. You still got 60 to 80 years to pay for your mistakes. You chose what side you wanted to be on. Reap it. Why is he still breathing? Because karma is a myth. Yeah, this is a good point. Try looking at it from somebody else's perspective, like the shooting victims. If they can do this to me and get away with it, they can do it to anybody. Fuck around and find out. Consequences, you dumb shit. Hey Kyle, your immaturity killed 3 innocent people. Well, 2 in an injury. Just because you skated through our legal system doesn't mean they're coming back to life. You're gonna pay for that little racist stunt for the rest of your life. Oh God, I will be all over that. Sadly, he could probably MAGA crowdsource the funds to pay any civil judgment levied against him, and then use that as an opportunity to make the rounds on conservative TV and radio programs. No, 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 no. They're gonna sue him for everything he's fucking worth, and those lawyers are gonna find out exactly how much he's worth. He should join the army. I mean, seriously, that's what it's for. He wants to kill people, trim up his puffy shape, and there's educational benefits. The little violin. Love how whenever he plays victim, he's a kid. Fuck this loser till the end of time. The absolute audacity of this little shit saying, if they can do this to me, you shot them. You killed 2 people and crippled 1. You should be in jail. OJ Simpson has entered the sub. Saw him on Tucker the other week, and within 5 minutes he was asking for money. The grift keeps on grifting. Yes, if you killed someone's child and you have been found innocent of murder, you can still be sued by the family. Just ask OJ Simpson. You cease to be a kid when you brandish an AR-15 in the streets. That's exactly why he went and did that, isn't it? Okay. Dude literally went armed to a peaceful protest, recorded opening automatic fire into a thick crowd of peaceful protesters, killing 2, walked unharried to a nearby police column, recorded being congratulated by cops for murdering protesters. I didn't know that part. Allowed to return home with no warrant issued for his arrest, was acquitted by a white jury and praised by the white MAGA judge. This is literally worse than Mississippi burning. I'd countersue for court costs. Doesn't even matter if they win. Unless they're in an anti-SLAPP state, these suits are going to cost him plenty. He better hope he stays a party favorite, and therefore his grift stays successful. It doesn't even matter if it's an anti-SLAPP state. These are not SLAPP suits. Well, guess you guys don't like the Second Amendment and the ability to defend oneself. It's not like he went around spraying random people down. He literally only shot people coming after him with enough rounds to stop the threat. Call me a fascist or whatever you want, I don't care. Second Amendment does not cover going out intentionally looking for a fight. I've owned guns for decades and I have never wound up in another state role-playing Call of Duty to protect property. Pretending he did not specifically go out looking for a reason to use this weapon is delusional. He said right out he wanted to shoot others, but due to the nature of the evidence, they decided not to admit it into trial, which is fine if a court wants to do it. Doesn't change that it's a fact and speaks volumes of the fact he had intent. Even if the people he killed were generally idiots and scumbags, doesn't change his being as much of a scumbag as anyone he could have shot. Yes, Kyle cannot get an education or a job. Sounds like the public has spoken. If he had gone back to living a normal life, he maybe could have gotten away with it. Instead, he decided to capitalize on being a right-wing love child, despite having no conservative political leanings aside from wanting to shoot people he didn't like. If you want a dissent, that's fine. But remember, dissenting is advocating for people randomly showing up places uninvited with guns they aren't allowed to have to shoot people they don't know and then claim self-defense when no logical person would have ever thought to do that. You may feel comfortable with that fact, but publicly, I'd keep that shit to myself. stop with the who these people were crap. The facts of the case were adequate for acquittal according to the jury, as you say. No one knew a goddamn thing about anyone else in that situation. It was still a kid patrolling the streets with an automatic weapon, and a clusterfuck of bad choices from there. Oh boy. Oh my God. Really, really sad. Really sad. Oh well. Just wanted to go over this. This fucking retard. I am going to be following this very carefully. I want to see every second of the civil suit. Anyway, that's it.